The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on March 1st, 2022.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff or management of Visionary-related entertainment.
Aloha and good morning. Welcome to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Timbop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Today, we're going to talk about infrastructure investments, House Bill 1833 relating to the University of Hawaii, and bills regarding expanding of residency and nursing programs with Representative Troy Hashimoto. We're going to also speak with Councilmember Tasha on her priorities this budget session, hear about $40 million in federal funds for Maui County Rent and Utilities Assistance Program, and her priorities as chair of Human Concerns and Parks Committee. And we're going to speak with a family-owned neighborhood flooring business who's been around for a long time doing amazing work here in Maui Island. But let's start this morning with Representative Troy Hashimoto. He serves as State House District 8 which runs from Waikapu to Wailuku to Kahakaloa on Maui, and currently serves as the vice chair on the Housing Committee. He also serves as a member of the Education, Higher Education, and Transportation Committee. He attended the University of Hawaii, Denver, where he earned a bachelor's and master's of business administration. And before working at the legislature for us, he worked for nearly 8 years on the Maui County Council for then Council Chair Mike White. He also serves as the House co-convener of the Kupuna Caucus and serves on the Maui Metropolitan Planning Organization. Good morning, Representative Hashimoto. We're so glad to have you on with us again today.
Good morning, Tom. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, it has been really an exciting session, and there has been so many important measures moving forward. But I wanted to start with something that we are really excited about at the Chamber, which is this county and state partnership to build more affordable housing. And a key part of that is a discussion on infrastructure investments, like the Wai'ale project, where the county is partnering with the state. Can you share with us what's happening, in regards to infrastructure investments and on that particular project and others?
Right. I think, many of us within our community are really looking at the cost of living these days. I think that is top of mind, and everything is getting so expensive. We look at our home prices, and they're skyrocketing. And I think we kind of knew this at the legislature, that once COVID was going to subside, we knew that housing was going to be, again, a big issue for our community. Yes. And so I think we know that we need to make strategic investments to see how we can help with this rising cost. And I think one of that strategies is to see if we can take the investment cost of any type of development and de-risk a project by the county and state doing what the county and state should be doing, which is investing in core infrastructure and then allowing these developers to then develop right after that. I think one of the biggest costs and one of the biggest hurdles of development is trying to figure out what is your water cost, how do you get those water lines connected, and if you can get water on Maui, it's the sewer cost, it's the roadway cost, and it's things that people really don't think about, but it adds so much to a cost of a project that is driving up a lot of these prices. And it also shows developers that they don't want to develop on Maui because it's so difficult to get those things done. So I think statewide, the strategy has been, well, let's get back to doing those type of things instead of asking private developers to do that. And I think we looked at various projects on Maui, and one of the closest projects that really need help to getting off the ground was that Wai'ale project.
Yeah.
With it's Mike Atherton project at the tropical plantation.
Yeah, we are so excited about this partnership, and I'm so glad that you are explaining these things, because often, well, first, there's a big difference. We are also talking about the minimum wage this year, but a big difference between the
Mm-hmm.
minimum wage and a living wage and all the inputs that go into that. And of course, housing is one of the key issues. And then on the county side, of course, for years we've been saying, we need government to get back into the infrastructure development because that's such a key part. And of course, you can't build housing without the infrastructure. And so many times we hear on a local level that there's these projects and all this housing was promised, but why didn't it happen? And a lot of that stumbling block is getting the infrastructure to the right locations and getting it to a point where we can move these projects forward, but also by the county and state getting involved in handling some of these infrastructure needs. That doesn't get put on the developer, it doesn't get put into the housing prices. And so,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
And I think this is something that we know needs to happen. I think the hard part is figuring out the partnership between the state and the county, because I think part of it is the state wants to support the county, but a lot of these types of infrastructure development typically are on the county to do, right? They're the ones who are the decision makers, they're the land use decision makers for Maui County, and they're the ones who are adding conditions to projects. And so I think this is a real step forward on if the county is willing to try and take some state funds, also some federal funds. President Biden signed and Congress passed the sweeping infrastructure bill,
right.
and now it's time to implement some of those funds that are coming down from the Fed, the one-time cash infusion. And I think we need to take advantage of that. And I think part of the problem that we might foresee is we may not have enough shovel-ready projects, because the projects need to be in a state where we are ready to go. But sometimes in Hawaii, it takes a while to get to that state. We have a lot of regulatory requirements. And so we need to be sure that we're on deck, ready to go with some of these things as the federal funds come down. I think the Waiale project is one of those things, but I think we're not only looking in Central Maui, we're also looking at other areas, South Maui, also in West Maui. I think one of the larger investments that we're also trying to make is we're trying to put a lot of money for the Department of Hawaiian Homeland, which is tasked is to house our Native Hawaiian population. And so that is the proposal, that the House proposal is to infuse that department with $600 million to make sure that we can take care of those Native Hawaiian housing, because that is local families, right? They have to be Native Hawaiian and meet the blood quantum to qualify for that type of housing. And so it's all these strategies that we're trying to implement and utilize and leverage all these funds, because at the bottom line, you're right. There's this debate about minimum wage right now, but really the reality is the biggest thing that's going to make a difference in a family's life is if we can somehow lower that housing cost. Because if you take a look at a lot of families, it's their housing cost that's eating up most of their monthly income, right? And so if we can lower that just a little bit, that's going to make a big difference in a family's life.
Absolutely. And it's funny to hear and scary to hear you say shovel ready. I joined the chamber just before in 2006. And of course, in 2008, we had the Great Recession. And at the time, funding was coming down from the federal government for shovel ready projects. And Maui County was not ready. We were way behind and didn't get a lot of the money we could have gotten had we had more projects in the pipeline. So how can we quickly get ready for this?
Well, part of it is it's a change in mindset, I think, within government, because I think in the past, a lot of times we've just kind of waited for private developers to propose projects, and then we would give them approvals, and then they'd move forward. Or then because we see this puka happening within the community, we would then respond because it was so bad, and at that point, the government was forced to respond. I think what the mindset change now needs to be is we need to be more proactive in strategic planning, and also taking a look at all these big projects that need to happen way out in the future that will then allow for smart growth, and allow for growth in areas that we believe will help us in the future. And I think that's why it was a state delegation that was the one that kind of pushed for the regional wastewater plant that will be happening in Kahului, or in central Maui near the Atherton property. We know that there is the current wastewater treatment plant is aging.
Yes.
It's in the tsunami zone, and it would have to move anyway. I know the county was thinking about moving it, but we pushed them to think further and say, let's just do it, because it'll open a lot of different possibilities in central Maui in terms of a strategic planning mindset. And so I think those are the types of steps that we have to take for a whole lot of different projects. And that project's going to take 4 years just to get the environmental impact statement done. So we're far from starting the build. But when you talk about shovel ready, to get to that point, it takes a long time, as you said. And we need to be getting it to that point of getting all the environmental work done now.
Right.
Because then, of course, there's federal or state funds that can be utilized.
That's really important. And we don't want to miss out because, prior to this, we were seeing declining federal funding and infrastructure for many, many years. And now, of course, with COVID and the new bill, we have that. So we want to make sure we maximize that. I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really important timing. Another thing that Hawaii's long suffered with the shortage of qualified public school teachers. And, it's really important that we continue to attract teachers. And I know that you've been working on House Bill 1833 relating to the University of Hawaii and bills on expanding residency of nursing programs, which we also desperately need, having more nurses on island. Can you talk about the work that you're working on how we get more of these qualified professionals here and keep them here?
Absolutely. I think that is a very important task that we are trying to figure out right now. I think it's been years in the making. I think it's something that we've seen before our eyes, but we haven't necessarily responded to well. I think we've tried different things, but I think we haven't gotten to that tipping point of trying to get an upward trajectory. Just some statistics for you, at least in the teaching field. I think I was taking a look at some statistics, and every year Hawaii needs 1,000 new teachers. In Hawaii, we only produce about 450 of all the programs that are out there. That is Shamana, that is the University of Hawaii.
We lost you for a moment. Oh, Troy, go ahead. We lost you at that we need 1,000 new teachers each year, and we only produce 450. And you were starting to mention all the different schools that contribute to that.
Right. Yeah. So throughout all the different schools, that is only the amount that we're producing, and we're importing the rest of them from various places, mainly from the mainland, with bonuses to come and teach in Hawaii. And the people will likely stay a few years that come from the mainland. And so I think what
we're having
more teachers that are locally grown.
Yes.
And they need to be educated here. There should be people within the community so that they will likely stay here more if they are educated here and do their student teaching here, and they'll have longevity here. So we're trying to reverse that trend, but it's the reality is that at Maui College there is no easy program for you to receive a teaching degree. The other thing is we also have that same problem with nurses. We're importing a lot of nurses because, number one, they don't have necessarily the experience, and number two, they don't have the credentials. And so we're trying to figure out how can we get Maui College to a point where they are able to give the students the degree that they need, which is a lot of times I think the hospital needs a bachelor's degree that will enable them to get the experience that they need right here in Hawaii so that they can hire all of the nurses. And I think when you talk to the hospital now, they are hiring every single graduate from Maui College. So we need to make sure we are expanding that program and also giving these local kids an opportunity, because part of it is the workforce development type of thing. Because if we can keep our local kids here, I think they will want to invest more in the community. And that's been the challenge, is keeping our local kids right here in Hawaii. I think a lot of them are looking and moving towards the mainland because it's just a cost of living factor. You can't find a job, and it's hard to get the degrees that you want to get. And to me, that's just really that. And I think it'll help out everyone in the community if we can figure that out. And so I think these bills aim to try and solve not only the teacher problem, the nursing shortage, and also we're looking at our rotating rural residency program, because we believe that doctors are also in the mix that are that are facing a shortage.
I think those are all excellent programs, and of course, something so desired. And one of the reasons we went from Maui Community College to UHMC is so that we could expand these programs and help people get those higher and needed degrees, so that we could get them employed in the positions that they that they're ultimately looking at right here at home, instead of sending our kids off to college, which many of them do. My daughter certainly did, and it's hard to bring them back once they do
Right,
that.
absolutely.
It's hard to get them back home, and of course that circles back into affordable housing. But this is a great bill, so we want to encourage people to look into and support House Bill 1833. But there are many other interesting bills that you're working on right now that are still alive. Can you share some of the other measures that are really important to you this session?
Yeah, so there are many bills. So we're in the legislature right now. We are approaching the final reading of all of our bills on House bills. So all of the House bills will cross over to the Senate sometime next week. And so we will be officially at the midpoint of the legislature. And so it's a crucial time. I think we're trying to make sure that we keep all of these bills alive and moving. And I think it's important that we, it's hard for, I think, sometimes for the community to follow because of the pace.
Yes.
But I think there are many important measures. I think we talked previously about a measure that's very important to you, the minimum wage. I think we are constantly discussing that because there is a divide between the House and the Senate between what is the correct type of minimum wage. I think the number is $18, and I think it depends when and where we get to 18. That's the discussion right now, and also what are the ancillary benefits to the minimum wage. We talked about one of it is cost of living. The other thing is tax credits. And I think that depends on how you take a look at it and how you mix it with the minimum wages. And I think that's where the House and the Senate is differing at this point. So that will be a very interesting one to watch. One particular bill that I'm working on is for because as I said, I'm the co-chair of the Kupuna Caucus. We are trying to extend the renewal period for driver's license between the ages of 70 and 80. Right now it's 2 years. We're trying to push to make that 4 years. So that's one that we've been working really hard on because that was one of the biggest initiatives for our kupuna out there. We also have a really interesting bill that is trying to do some what we call tax increment financing. And this would dramatically change the way that counties are able to tax or generate revenue for infrastructure projects or larger scale projects on the housing side, and it wouldn't count towards their bond allocation cap. And it doesn't sound very sexy, but it's something that I think we need to take a look at in terms of financing mechanisms to continue this momentum we're getting from the federal infrastructure bill to really invest in some of the private infrastructure side and also the larger scale infrastructure projects. And so the counties will be able to bond projects, and then it won't count towards their ceiling for their bond. So this would entice counties to take a look at this financing. And so I think that'll be a very interesting one. And we also have just a slew of other smaller housing related bills that kind of are more assistance-based bills for Hawaii Public Housing Authority and the Hawaii Housing and Finance Development Corporation that's moving through the legislature that we're really working on. I think part of it is to entice development within Hawaii by trying to change the way that we finance bills, finance housing development, and also helping our most needy families through TANF programs. So lots of different bills. I think if you want to take a look, we have, you can go head to the Capitol website and you can click on my picture and we'll have a huge digest of bills that might be of interest to you.
And I love that because I really do appreciate the capital. It's a capital.hawaii.gov website,
That's
and
right.
you
Yeah.
can find all of our legislators. And you can, like Troy said, you can click on the picture and you can see the many different things they're working on. I do want to add, Troy, that we deeply appreciate the minimum wage bill, HB 2510, which was the House version. There were other House versions as well, but that seemed to be the most comprehensive minimum wage bill. And it's been a challenge because, as you mentioned, there is a divide between the Senate and the House. Of course, that's part of the process as we work through things
That's
and try
right.
to bring people together, putting together the best winning ideas. And I really appreciate also, as you point out, and as we've had a chance to discuss, the connection with the living wage and why we also have to start tackling Hawaii's living wage, because there's many ways that we can reduce these high costs and the inputs that create our living wage being so high, and help people understand the difference between a minimum wage and a living wage, and work on the broader picture. We can't just always keep upping a minimum wage, because we're never going to be able to keep up with the living wage unless we tackle the other side of the living wage. So thank you so much for joining us. You are always a wealth of information, so articulate and able to clearly explain things that makes it easy for all of us to understand and follow and understand the deeper meaning and why the rationale is so important to understand and how we can positively move forward. We appreciate having you on today, Troy.
Thanks so much, Pam. And as you said, capital.hawaii.gov, lots of different information. Everyone can testify remotely these days, so it's easy to access us.
Yes, and please do. And it's a little different. You do have to register in advance, tell them you want to testify. And the time is a little different from the county. It's 1 minute, but it's well worth it. So make sure that you register on issues that are important to you. Well, wonderful to have you on. Have a wonderful day, Troy.
Thanks, Pam. Take care.
Thank you. You too. We'll be right back after a brief message from Mokulele Airlines. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. And we're back. Our next guest is Councilmember Tasha Kama. Tasha holds the County Council's Kahului residency seat and serves as the chair of the Human Concerns and Parks Committee. Tasha's primary focus is to provide more affordable housing units as a key factor for a healthy community and addressing human concerns while balancing the protection of environmental resources in alignment with the Hawaii Pacific Trust Doctrine. Good morning, Councilmember Kama. So glad to have you on the show with us.
Good morning, Pam. Thank you so very much for the invite, and thank you for the opportunity to talk with you and your listeners this morning.
Oh, we always love having you on the show. Thank you for joining us. You have been really looking at how we take care of our families here in Maui County. And as we've all seen, we've had a number of challenges, and COVID certainly exacerbated those and really has affected families in many ways. And now we're looking at $40 million in federal funding for rent and utilities assistance to provide some relief. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to us about how that funds can be used and share more with our listening audience on ways they can take advantage of that?
Okay. So you're correct. The federal funding totaled approximately $43 million. And so this program comes to the county's Department of Housing and Human Concerns, which the department chair, director is Laura Suhako. So this program was administered by Catholic Charities Hawaii and also Maui Economic Opportunity. So it was in May 2021 that this program got started. And since then, these organizations have helped 3,467 households to either pay rent or their utilities. So there are 632 applications that came in from Kahului alone, 96732. A total of $20,834 was paid out in rent, and a total of $909,000 was paid out in utilities. And of that, $814,000 went to electricity alone. Catholic Charities is still accepting applications for assistance. So you could, go to mauicounty.gov, or you could call Maui Rent Helps, or you can call this number, 808-873-4673, and speak directly with someone who can help you with an application should you have need of these things. So, as a reminder, right, the Rent Utility Assistance Program was meant for renters and not homeowners who are impacted by COVID-19,
Right.
and who may or may not owe their landlords back rent since March 2020. So, but the funding is also limited to those who are earning 80% and below the AMI or area median income. So even if people now have jobs and their income at the time of the downturn, they can use that information. And so we really want to encourage people who think that they may be eligible to try, and not think that, oh, well, I can't because of this or I can't because of that. Don't sell yourself short. This program is here. It's for our people. It's for you. So I want to encourage, the people of our county to please, if you think you need help, go get them.
Absolutely.
Don't be ashamed. Don't be shy.
Don't count yourself out.
Yeah. So homeowners who need mortgage insurance can contact MEO, because they have funds from the CDBG or Community Development Block Grant to help them. So we can help people who are renters and homeowners.
That is so awesome. And again, here we are. We've spent a considerable amount of money on the program, but there's still a considerable amount of money still available, which is really important.
Yes.
So, that's a lot of money that is available. And for anybody who, as Councilmember Kama said, for anybody who thinks they might be qualified, just call. Don't, let the experts tell you how they can help, because they're geared up to find a way to help. They know the rules and regulations, and sometimes there's little nuances that, when we're publishing programs, we can't spend an hour going through all the little ins and outs of a particular program. But that's why we have the experts, and they know how to work the system, and they know how to try and find ways. And if they can't help in a particular thing, they know other community partners who might be able to help. So just call. Go ahead and call.
Absolutely. I think sometimes our people sell themselves short because they already assume, because of their situation this way or that way, that they're not going to. And so they don't bother, right? And then even when they do make the attempt, sometimes the application process itself is like, oh, what? I got to get my statements, and I got to get this and get that. But, even sometimes just getting those documents ahead of time is helpful, but somebody can help you.
Yes.
They can tell you what you need, what things you need to, and then you go get them, and then you come back with a wonderful, fully loaded application with all the information on it, and you can get the help.
And folks, it's tax time. So this is the time when you're having to get out documents anyway. So get them out, put them on the side, because this is the time when you need to work on it anyway, and use that time to leverage programs like this. Yeah, that is so awesome. And again, we don't know. This kind of money is a one-time infusion. It's not something that we're going to see over and over again. So, as our national debt level rises, and now we're in a new time with war happening in other areas, it's really important that, again, leverage programs, take advantage when they're accessible to you and available. And so this is a great time for that. you're also gearing up, and the council's budget season is right around the corner. And we're going to have another whirlwind. I know how time-consuming that is for all of our council members. Bless you all for all the hard work and effort that goes into that. I know it's many long hours and a lot of discussion and debate. What are some of your top priorities this year?
Funny you should mention it. We are looking forward to going to budget, and you're right. It's a long process, and it's lengthy in terms of time, because this week we're into the process of the county the charter.
Yes.
So that's again. Mr. Molina, who chairs the great committee, has set aside this whole week for us to be able to review all the 13 proposals. But that being said, we can talk about that later if we have time after we talk about the more important things. So yes, budget priorities for this session. I don't have a lot because I think that it's important for me to be real clear about what it is I want to do, what I want to accomplish,
Yes.
and realize that the budget priorities is countywide for those of us who are on the council. So while many of us have things that we'd like to be able to fund, because these are the things that are near and dear to our heart, I have to also take into consideration that there are other members of the council who have other priorities. So these are my priorities. Hashimoto. I don't know if you saw today's paper, but they're on the front page of today's paper because I will tell you, in 2017 or 18, I heard this new term. It was called the silver tsunami.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what the heck? I know what a tsunami is. That's a silver tsunami. And not realizing that what it was people in the elderly who were working with the elderly, and at that time was Westlow and Grant done back then,
Yes.
or now,
Yep.
that they're looking at the increase of our elders and the services that they would need, and that we may not be able to accommodate them in
Right.
terms of their aging out. And so they came up with Hashimoto came up with the master plan, and that's what you're going to see in this paper. So I want you folks, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about it because I think you can read it in the paper, but it's a $64 million proposal on 76,000 square feet facility in Hawai'i. So they have already made their presentation at it used to be, before it was Human Concerns and Plus, it was, I think, Healthy Families.
Yeah.
And that was the committee that Mr. Hokama chaired. And that's where this discussion started, at least when I was on the council. But it started before, when they actually went to the committee and told them this is what they wanted to do. But here we are, it is today, 2022, and they have just released their proposal. I am very excited about this because I will admit to you that I am part of this silver tsunami. So I will.
We would never know.
Plan for my future. So that is my priority: Hashimoto, and helping them to ensure that this facility is completed. But also another priority for me was in December of last year. I had on my agenda a topic called sex trafficking.
Mm.
And, I was pretty shocked to hear what I heard in terms of it's here on Maui. It's been here on Maui. And the people most impacted by this particular industry are Native Hawaiian. And that just floored me. And that the average age of these victims was 11.
Wow.
And when I heard that at my meeting, I said, in my heart, I said, if we are in a position of power to be able to do something about that, then we should do it. And that's why the only two priorities I have for this budget session is ensuring that the Hashimoto project continues and completes and making an impact in sex trafficking, what's going on here in Maui. So those are my, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, that's, for so long we've heard about sex trafficking, of course, on Oahu. And to know that it's really hitting us here at home.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just my heart is just sinking to think about 11-year-old children.
Yes.
To hear it being that young. My cousin on the mainland has done a lot of work in this area and actually has written a book and raised funds to address this issue on the mainland. And it is such a it's just such a heartbreaking issue to hear how people get roped into that and the circumstances going on in their life
Yes.
to get roped into that. And then when they want to get help, how difficult it is to get the help and get out of that and the danger involved in that.
Yes.
And to be thinking about here in Maui County, this place that we call home and that we love, to know that young children are being brought into that world. I honestly, I'm just saying, and I probably represent a lot of people. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Because we live in a different life, right? We don't see it, so therefore it's not happening, right? Until somebody tells you and you say, you can't pretend anymore that you don't know. You can't pretend that you don't see it or you don't know it.
Yeah.
You know?
This
And
is
the victims, there are kids, there are children.
Yeah.
You know, they come from all walks of life. It's not just about poverty. You know, it's about the vulnerability of our people.
Yeah. Yeah, that
So,
you're right. That's the most appropriate word. It's about the vulnerability of where they're at. And so for parents listening, if you're listening, this is a time to remember how important it is to strengthen our children, to educate them on these kinds of issues. Talk with them, yes.
Talk with them, not to them. See, I mean, parenting is not an easy thing.
No,
it's not like they were born and we had an instruction manual that says step 1, step 2. No, it's more like trial and error.
That's right.
For me, it was like trial and error. And, so I kept having more kids so that I can figure out what's so my match would be perfect, right?
God bless you. Seriously. I stopped at 2. I thought I better focus on 2. I needed more work.
But those are my priorities, and that's where my heart is at.
So glad that you're taking that up.
And at our most vulnerable.
Yes.
In this particular issue.
And then on your, as chair of the Human Concerns and Parks Committee, are there any key priorities there?
Those are my priorities because these are 2 issues that have come to my committee.
Yes.
Sex trafficking came one. I think Harley McCoy has been in this committee for quite some time.
Yeah.
And we're at the tail end. I would say at the tail end. I want to be positive about that. We're at the tail end.
We're at the tail end, going to make it happen.
What it takes.
Yes.
Yeah, it takes the beginning, and you have to, just keep on it, keep at it, and then here's the result. So, kudos to Mr. Ricky Hokama for, bringing this forward, and kudos to Mr. Lowe for carrying the ball to the end of the field, I guess, touchdown,
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the other thing about that great project is it includes housing for seniors.
Exactly.
So that takes some of this housing out as well. Where, you get many benefits to this great program. It's really exciting project and very well designed too. I mean, so much time and energy has been put into that. Yeah. So, we want to encourage everybody to take a look at that. Councilmember Kama, we always love having you on the show. Thank you for the great work you're doing. I'm going to connect with you offline and get you a copy of my cousin's book on that issue.
Yes, thank you.
And maybe we can even get her to participate in the meeting and share some words on some of the work that's being done in other areas that maybe we can model after. But it's a big, tough, a very difficult issue, folks, and so we're so thrilled to know that you're taking that up. And, you lead with your passion, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, and we love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam.
It's our pleasure. You have a wonderful day.
and you have a great week.
Thank you. You too. Well, if you're just tuning in, this is Business Matters brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. If you're a business on Maui, we are here to serve. Be a part of the Chamber's Ohana. Learn how we can help leverage our team to support yours and help make your business grow and be more successful. Call us at 808-244-0081 or email us at info@mauichamber.com. It is now my great pleasure to welcome to the show Myles Kawakami, who has been a longtime leader in our community and happens to be the owner of Hawaiian Carpet One Floor and Home. Good morning, Myles. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Pam. I have been blessed beyond measure.
You have, and you bless other people as well. And we so appreciate all the great things that you do in our community. Hawaiian Carpet One has been around since 1981. Coincidentally, that was the year I moved to Maui. And you have been the head of this proud family-owned and operated business. And you've gotten started in such a great way, but also there's more inspiration behind your business. Tell us a little bit about Hawaiian Carpet One and what makes you unique.
Well, we're owned by third and fourth generation of Maui people. My mother actually was born and raised in Punene
Wow.
sugar mill. And in 1981, I just jumped at the chance to move back to Maui and open Hawaiian Carpet One. I think one of the keys to our business is that in 1987, we joined the largest floor covering cooperative in the world called Carpet One. It's like Ace Hardware, where every store is locally owned, but we pull together for the things that economy of scale can benefit us and our customers. And we're told that by our vendors that we're one of the largest floor covering stores here in Hawaii. And as a side note, in 1999, Hawaiian Carpet One sponsored my wife Joyce to start Feed My Sheep, which started from a small church youth group to become the largest direct food distributor to the underprivileged here on Maui. And as you know, Pam, she's an unpaid volunteer the whole time and the CEO.
Absolutely. She did not get paid for all the many years running Feed My Sheep.
Yes, and during the pandemic, Feed My Sheep served over 10,000 unduplicated people.
Yes. Yeah.
And they do that with a small staff and over 600 volunteers.
Yeah, folks, if you're not familiar with Feed My Sheep, and if I may, Myles, I want to share a fun story.
Please.
Myles always said that he gave Joyce an unlimited budget, and she always exceeds it. but and in full disclosure, I do want to mention too that I am also on the board of Feed My Sheep, and Feed My Sheep doesn't have clients; they serve friends. And they make sure that they don't just have a meal at a time, that they're provided with nutritious food for themselves and their family for a week, so that they're not having to go day by day, but they then know that they have enough food to sustain their family until the next distribution the following week. So it's a wonderful program, and Hawaiian Carpet One has really tremendously supported this effort, which has benefited so many throughout our community. And you and your wife, Joyce, are such an incredible team. And we're so excited to, know all of the great things that you've been doing. And not just, there's so many ways, Myles, that you serve. I know you also serve on many boards. I actually met you serving as chair of the Maui Chamber of Commerce. So you were one of my first chairs that I got to work with at the chamber, but you've had a life of service, and so it's so exciting to know all that through the company you've been able to do to help the community. Tell people about, if they're not familiar with Hawaiian Carpet One and all of your great products for floors and home, tell people a little bit about the products and services you offer.
Well, thank you, Pam. Well, Hawaiian Carpet One has one of the largest inventories that is in stock here on Maui, and that's pretty important because of our remote location. We have a lot of specials going on, and it's kind of unusual because Hawaiian Carpet One, when we started out, we were like 85% carpet, and today we're below 33% carpet. The whole floor covering industry has morphed during my time here. But we have some specials going on. We have solid granite countertops, 9 foot wide. It's bull nose on 3 sides. So you just cut off the side you don't need and connect it on. And it starts at $199, just completely finished, and solid granite. We have luxury vinyl planks, which are pretty dominant in our market, starting at $299. And our planks are different in that we only handle the light commercial flooring that's totally waterproof. So it's not the real cheap vinyl planks that might be around. We have the largest selection of a large format tile, starting at $199 a square foot. Wide selection of stock carpets, starting at 69 cents a square foot, and Maui's largest stock and inventory of remnants. As an example, a 9 by 12 room size carpet starts at $49, and we're continually morphing our business to meet the changing needs of our community here on Maui.
Well, I love hearing that. And of course, by name, you wouldn't think about the vinyl planks and the marble countertops. So it's you really have so much, and your showroom is so amazing in Kahului. There's so much to see if you're building a home, if you're renovating a home, if you've got an office that needs carpet or blind. There's so many things that you've been able to offer over the years, Myles, and especially now, I think, as you mentioned, to have all that inventory, we're up against so many supply chain issues that people are struggling to find what they need. So it's nice to know that you've got a lot of inventory in stock to show people and give them so many different options.
Yes, we have $1.5 million worth of inventory.
Myles, by the way, is also a great financial expert and really good at statistics.
Which scares the heck out of me sometimes.
Yeah, it would scare the heck out of me. Well, let me just rephrase. I wouldn't be able to do it, but if I was in that position, it would be very scary. But for you, the customers, it's a great thing, because what that means is you have choices and options. And they carry that much inventory so that you do have those choices and options, which is wonderful. Tell people where you're located and how they can learn more about all of your products and services.
We are located at on Alamaha Street. We're right next to a Maratone, two lots down from Ross, just down the street from 7-Eleven. And we are found on www.hawaiiancarpet.com. We're on Facebook at Hawaiian Carpet One Floors and Home. On Instagram, hashtag Hawaiian _ceramic_tile, and listed under Hawaiian Ceramic Tile. We actually have 2 trade names: Hawaiian Carpet One Floor and Home and Hawaiian Ceramic Tile, because of our major shift in the marketplace. So just to be sure we can reach the customers that we need to. And we have really, as I mentioned earlier, we've really been blessed beyond measure here on Maui.
You really have, and I know that you and your family have really been so engaged in the community, working hard in this business. You also have really diverse lines too. The last time I was there, you were into cabinets as well.
Yeah, we do some cabinets, but our business is really mentioned, we started out in carpet, hence our name, Hawaiian carpet, and which at that time was the dominant floor covering of choice. And that floor covering has now morphed into vinyl. Ceramic tile is really big, especially here in Hawaii for our Hawaiian lifestyle. And of course, we still do a lot of carpets and ceramic. I'm sorry, granite countertops, which is a major product for us also.
Yeah, and they're stunning.
Oh, thank you. Granite countertops when we started was a really high-end product, for a real high-end Wailea type home. But right now we're doing it in homes here in Kahului.
So, given all of the, we've been talking about growing home sales, how has that been for your business, and how were you able to survive during COVID?
During the COVID pandemic, our business increased. We increased sales and revenue between single and double digits in the last 2 years. And I suspect that with the lockdown, a lot of people turned their attention to improving their homes.
Yes.
And so, we actually increased our business. I'm almost embarrassed to say. And
Well,
of course, the condos that we couldn't get in during these years
yes,
opened up, so we were able to do a lot of business in there.
that's amazing. Well, Myles, we've loved having you on the show. It's always great to talk to you. Thank you for sharing about Hawaiian Carpet One Floor and Home. And we want to remind everybody they're on Alamaha Street. Check them out. You're going to find great things for your home.
Well, thank you, Pam. You have been a blessing. The chamber has been a blessing for Hawaiian Carpet. We couldn't have done it without the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, well, you've been a blessing to us as well. Thank you so much for being a part of the Chamber's Ohana and your great leadership. Folks, that's all the time we have today. It's always so much fun to talk to everybody and to learn so many exciting things. We just want to thank again our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines, for the tremendous support of the show. I'm Pamela Tumpop with the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing you blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day. Ahui ho.